Good morning, everyone. I hope yous are all well. Now, I just wanted to pop in and, just talk about this is just a reminder, but also just to, get us to think about how important it is to remain centered and grounded at the moment, and simple things that we can do on a daily basis to support us, to keep us centered, to keep us grounded, to in many ways keep us out of getting into the drama, getting caught into the chaos that is going on in the world at the moment, and to help us have more discernment and recognise when our own triggers, our own wounding is actually, pulling it in as into certain types of drama, certain types of pattern, like things like trying to control what people think, trying to control everybody's reactions. Also, where we remove ourselves or we detach ourselves from compassion for other people. Now, we're now getting into what is the next stage of, in many ways, awakening for people, and everybody's at different stages there and has different understanding, and everybody has a different purpose right now, and everybody has their unique path, but we all are going through different initiations and passages. It's like the rites of passage we're going through. If you think a lot of cultures, they are very, they're very certain key times in people's life and their age that they have to make certain choices, and they do certain rites of passage, right? Now, I believe that we all have different initiations in life and opportunities to grow and evolve from certain circumstances. And sometimes those circumstances, it's like a test, right? And I believe that humanity is getting tested in many, many levels at the moment, and as all at an individual level are getting tested. Now, that doesn't mean that every test, that you only get one test, and then if you fail that test, it's not like that then that's it. But there is an element of that, I think, or some element, we've had so many tests, and there's been a big test on humanity's level of discernment. There's big tests in relation to how much people are easily caught up with fear, with trauma, with anxiety, with the need to control things. And I'll talk about control because, there's a double-edged sword there, but one of the things that we all can easily get caught up into when we are trying to have good intuition and good discernment is that our own wounds stop us seeing certain things. We all have blind spots, right? And for example, if you're someone that most of your life nobody listened to you, and everybody said that you were stupid, or you felt you were not heard or seen, if you were invisible, you might feel this constant desire to be seen, for people to listen to you and think what you're saying is important. And the problem with that is that then, are you listening to other people? Are you having respect, compassion, empathy, and respect and value for other people? And that's one example. And then a wounding can come from all sorts of wounding, and there's all different reasons we do things, but also we can have things like fears that have us in certain ways. Fears have us in certain ways look at life, look at the world in all sorts of ways, right? And they can leave us feeling very distorted, very negative, losing hope in humanity, see everything as black and white. You know, some people can be very catastrophic thinking, and we all have different things. We also have people, when you look at archetypes, and that's the easiest way of going to archetypes, probably that's the best way to talk about it. We think about people from an archetypal perspective. We all form different archetypal traits, and that's part of our survival. I do believe that a lot of people, it's part of the gifts. So if you think about people that have got very much Pollyanna syndrome, they can be great at helping people be really positive and really see the beauty and the magic and the innocence in all sorts of circumstances, and help people look at something from a different angle. The only problem sometimes with the shadow element of that kind of archetype, which you can see is very much sometimes an innocent archetype, is that they want to hide their head in the sand in relation to reality, and they can lack good intuition and discernment, because they always gravitate to what they wish and they dream for, which can be positive in some ways, but what can happen, they can fall down more deeply. It's like a child who doesn't want to grow up, or a child that has their first shock, or the first wound in their face of reality, and it's a big impact on them, and it can have big impact on them psychologically, emotionally, mentally and spiritually. So we all have different archetypal strengths, and what we're seeing at the moment is there's been a great rise of very much the warrior rebel archetype coming out, and no matter if we like it or not, we kind of need a bit of that, right? And it's light aspect, not shadow. In its shadow aspect, when the rebel, for example, gets out of its scent and it gets out of its heart, it just wants to prove a point, and it just wants to destroy everything and break things down, but it can be a bit reckless. It can be very impulsive and want things to be solved right away, and it's irrational. And it's like, sometimes when you think about the rebel without a cause or a rebel without a clue, they don't think it through. So it's like, obviously we're at a period in society and a period in the world where all structures need to be broken down and things need to be shifted, and that can be uncomfortable at the time. But the problem with the shadow rebel archetype is that they want things to happen so fast and now that there's no the natural elements of it. They want to rush it, they want to push it, they want it to come out in a way, and sometimes they can bring in like the way that the innocent wants the dream and the magic to happen. They think by just destroying something or eliminating everything completely in a certain way that's going to solve all the problems, but they can create more chaos and destruction in the process. And sometimes they can't always see the bigger picture because they are motivated by this radicalness. They just think that the world shouldn't be that way, that everything has a process, everything, if things have to change, sometimes things are quickly changed, but often there can be parts of it that's quick, and then there's other things, because we have to, at the moment we're having to retrain humanity, we're having to create new structures, and we're all still evolving, right, and we're all still growing. And if we can't do it from compassion, if the rebel is not in their heart and is only about trying to change it for what they want, right, or what they believe is right, but they don't see the whole picture. And I believe that every single one of us cannot see the bigger picture, the full picture, because we only have a comment in life from our own angle, our own perspective, our own view, right, and our own life experience. We don't see everything, and we've got to understand that at the moment, that's why we have to stay centered. We need to stay grounded, and we have to stay in compassion. And you know, one of the challenges that many people are having is, trying to deal with their family or the closest people to them at the moment, right? As people are evolving and waking up, you can, and I've seen this over the last particularly 6 years, it's getting more paramount, is where people, one partner wakes up and the other person is fast asleep or not interested. And they don't want to face the shadow, they don't want to look at an alternative look. And when you have one person, for whatever reason, that does not want to wake up or does not want to evolve or does not want to face their own shadow, their own wounding, and just wants an easy life but does not want to face things, it's like a child. It's like a child that you are trying to look after. And it can be very difficult, but if you don't have compassion for that person, it's like, I see so many people calling themselves light workers, for example, and they see themselves as very awakened and light workers. But many of them are, they're shown as if, they're implying they have compassion, but the way that they talk about the people around them, the way that they talk about people that don't agree with them, or the way that they talk about people that have different opinions or don't agree with them or whatever, does not show light or compassion. And if you can't have that light and compassion, if you're trying to control people all the time, you're going to push people away, you're just going to cause more wounding. And one of the things that we're seeing at the moment is, well, there are a lot of things we're seeing. We're seeing people getting very frayed around the edges and kind of losing sense of reality, right? Because they're overwhelmed by so many things. People are losing hope, they're in apathy, they're frustrated, they're annoyed. They're in a lot of kind of vibrations and energy that's very self-destructive, self-sabotaging and disempowering, right? And then at the other end of that, you do have also people that are living in a fantasy land that just pretend that nothing's happening just because it may not be really on their doorstep at the moment. It's almost they don't really care about the rest of humanity. So, and I do believe we all need to be centred and grounded within ourselves, but there's also that kind of that people are lacking of compassion. They've got compassion burnout or they've got detachment. Now, a lot of empaths, I know for me, when I have empathy burnout, when I am so frazzled by the energies and the wounding of other people, and I've not got strong boundaries myself, or there's something that's triggering, and it's maybe triggering me as well, I can very easily lead into empathic burnout. Now, I've got quite, I've like a lot of people, I've got different people around me that are going through extreme challenges at the moment. And I'll give you one example. I've got one friend who's really went through the mill, physically as well as mentally and emotionally. And this normally doesn't happen, but I'm getting calls every day, and it's there's ruminating and this anxiety for her, and a lot of old wounding coming out. And I really have to really stay centred, really stay grounded, and try and stay in my power. And it's the same with elderly parents who are struggling mentally, emotionally, trying to get their head around things. Both of my parents are quite awake, particularly my dad, but my mum's awake but finds it really hard to deal with things. She's not as maybe mentally robust as my dad, right? And she's not as physically robust as my dad. And this is an example of what we all deal with, right? And I'm sharing things that I wouldn't always share in every group, right? But one of the things that we have to think about right now is that I know it can be hard to have compassion and empathy for whatever people have maybe done to you in the past, say to you in the past, have your opinions. But the reality is we all cause other people wounding, and it's not just about what we do, it's sometimes what we don't do. And we never see the bigger picture, right? And we have to remember, if we really want to raise the vibration of humanity and help humanity, we have to come from a place of compassion and peace. And we have to get centred and grounded. Of course, it's important to stand your ground, and we're at a point where, personal sovereignty is really, really important, and human sovereignty at the moment is getting challenged at every direction, and it's important that we stand in our power. But, you become powerless, you can become depleted if you are not centred, not grounded, and not calm and bounded, right? And we all can have different types of challenges in relation to this. We all have different wounds, and we all have different gifts and strength. So there's some things that are easy for some of us than others, right? And we all have different life lessons, and we all come in with different souls, with different purposes and life paths. And one of the biggest things that I learned in this industry is that many people are great at having opinions of all sorts of things about health, well-being, spiritual reasons, spiritual journeys, but they're still only stories and beliefs. It does not make them 100% truth, right? And the greatest power that we can give humanity is allowing people to make their own choices. Of course, we can help educate them, help them become more aware, support them, but when we try and control people, we're trying to take the power off them, right? When you try and control what people think, and one of the things that I know is that even in the coaching, healing, therapy industry, most people, all my clients and students, come in because they really want to make a difference in the world. But there's also a lot of shadow in that industry, and there's shadow within us all, because often we come into this work because we are the wounded healer. Because the wounded healer has the positive and the light, and even if you see yourself as just a light worker, the wounded healer is there. Something in your own life wounded you to want to help others. And we see in any caring, courageous, in doctors, nurses, and whatever. Now sometimes, then there's other things can happen. People can join these industries for different reasons. I see this a lot as well. People who are not really in it for the right reasons. They're just in it because they think it would be an easy job, right? And they don't have compassion for the clients. They don't have compassion for students. They don't want the clients or students to evolve and become empowered. And we all have, none of us are perfect, right? But the shadow element within this industry also runs that there is a lot of ideology that believes that they have got the truth and nothing but the truth, and what they say is correct. I see this with metaphysical stuff. There is so many different types of teachings around the metaphysical causes of disease, of people's journey, why people experience certain experiences, they're trying certain things in their life. That's just one example. There is so many different views about channeling, right? And people, believe certain channelers and believe, and we all have a different ideology. One of my friends, he gave me, I don't know how many books about all different channelers, and they all believe that their channel is clear and correct. But our job is to be our own channel, and not to, we can share, but it's not about forcing an opinion in anybody else. And when you support a client, and when you're supporting your family and your friends, it's about helping them make the best decisions for them. Because you don't, as I said this before, you don't know what you don't know. And people can think that they know best, right? And even, I know that you're taught to do certain things and support, and we can do and we can support. But it's also doing it in a way that you're not disempowering someone else. And the best way that you can do that is stay in your own power. So let's think about grounding. There's, you've been taught in the relaxation therapy quite a few different approaches that can help you ground. but just on a daily basis, being aware of your feet, being aware of your physical body, the weight of your body, consciously even drawing your energy in first of all, so that you are, you know, your energy's not scattered, even calling back your power. But, you know, spending as much time, I can't, just to do maths, I can spend as much time as nature that I would love to, right? You know, and I have been able to recently get out a wee bit more, but, you know, it's just relying on other people. But getting out into Mother Nature is such a nourishing and a great way to remind us, and it connects us in with far more grounding energy, natural energy, a natural life force that many of us have detached from, because we're living in these concrete houses full of electricity, full of toxic fabrics and toxic products, electrical devices that really take a big impact on our central nervous system, right? I mean, I switch my router off every night. I try and reduce being exposed to routers, and I have all these devices in the house to stop me getting as much EMFs. I also have it's a piece of fabric around my router that covers in a box to reduce EMFs, because they're another way that they ground us. So the importance of unplugging. So many people still have their mobile phones on going to bed, have all these electrical devices on in their bedrooms when it's so unhealthy. So getting grounded can be consciously grounding, and things like your essential oils and flower essences, these all can help you get a wee bit more grounded as well, because they're all for nature. One of the things that I like to do is I have a tiny garden, but I grow as much as I can. I like flowers as well, all flowers, so I have a combination of some herbs. I've tried to grow vegetables. That's not always been as successful. I have loads of squirrels that eat the living daylights and rip everything up, which is quite funny, but anyway. But I do have things like spinach, I have things like chives and herbs, and what I like to do, and most days, is go out and pick when I can some of those fresh herbs straight out the garden, because that has the life force in it. It has that vital force which can be grounding and nourishing, right? Even just going out and picking that, or getting your feet on the soil if you can, or whatever, just gets, you know, that grounding. Obviously, meditating daily and bringing it to the centre. Now, I had a situation this year which, you know, I've never felt like this for, I mean, probably about 30 years, but after I did the course at the beginning of the year, turned out some of the things in the course were definitely not right for me, and it caused me what you would call more like a neck and brain. That's what it caused. It was like a neck injury, and caused me, I'd already obviously neurological challenges, and I could not believe what was happening. I was really struggling, and it was almost like I'm going to be doing more about this. It's called brain smudging, and also what can happen when the body and the brain and whatever, there's too many things happen physically to a body, and then the body starts, it's like the electric signals start going all over the place. And I sometimes, you know, it's trying to balance that back and things. But one of the challenges that I started having with this, because my neck was struggling to stay straight, and I was kind of, you know, shaking quite a bit at times, was I really was struggling to achieve certain, at times, the deep meditation that I was normally able to achieve. And my nervous system, like the slightest movement in my head, my nervous system was getting triggered, because it was sending a warning signal. It was electrics, you know, it was like overexcited and telling me, you know, we shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. Now, our body is a great warning sign, but sometimes the body can send us confusing signals, right? And one of the things that it is trying to find different ways. A lot of people are feeling a lot of trauma at the moment, and I know they're finding it really difficult. A lot of people are picking up, first of all, picking up a lot of collective fear, a lot of collective energies. People are facing a lot of trauma and challenges and grief, and we talk about that in the relaxation therapy, where meditation there is certain times I would not, when someone's in the process of, recent grief, I actually would teach them, give them a relaxation and actually take them into meditation right away. It's particularly longer time, inviting them to a meditation class. I would discourage that, and especially in people that maybe have certain mental health issues, because they're often at that stage, there's different things going on with them psychologically, mentally and emotionally. Unless you're actually able to supervise them on a one-to-one basis, it's very difficult to see what's going on. But some people are very ruminative, and many people are so detached from their emotions and wounding that when they face it, it can be too much if they're not given the right approach to move them through that. So, if you're finding it difficult to meditate, do sort different things to relax. I've been just doing, even because I've found that I couldn't even do some of the relaxation therapy because it was pulling my joints out too much, right, and my neck, it was pulling my neck out further. So I was just doing like Relax and Let Go, which is, I will put a link under, this is going to go on YouTube, so I will put a link. Or is this going, I can't remember if I'm going to put it on YouTube or not, but anyway, I'll put a link just to remind you, the Relax and Let Go, very simple one that I just done, that is great for anybody, but it's even people that are unfortunately dying or are really unwell and don't have much energy, that I'll share that before. So it's important, no matter how busy you are, how much is going on in your life. I know a lot of people, a lot of us, if there's a similar age to me, over 40, sometimes you end up caring for parents. Maybe you've got kids, you've got other commitments, and life can get a bit crazy. And it's so important at these stages. I was saying this to someone I know recently, and she was just saying her mum's got really motor neurons, and that's a horrible disease. And this person particularly is constantly is looking after physically the mother, and the person doesn't keep very well themselves, and has a lot also getting family wise, has other commitments, and a child that's got special needs. And she kept saying to me, but I have to, my mum's dying, so my mum has to be my first protocol. But the reminder is that if you don't have compassion for yourself and self-care for yourself, she's going to end up iller than her mum, or so ill she can't look after her mum. And we have to do, it's the same at the moment. If we don't have compassion, we don't ground and center ourselves, we cannot be any use as a light worker, right? Now, that does not mean that you have to show up every day with all this energy and be, look, I know I go up and down at certain times, I can, and I do as much as I can to look after my health. But we all have days where are more challenging than others, and there'll be other people that can hold the light, but we have to try and stand in our power. This is the whole point. So it's about staying grounded, centered and calm and relaxed. Do what you can to calm your nervous system. Now, I've talked about this before, but I'm just going to remind you, there's a lot of techniques out there about the vagus nerve and the polyvagal and all that, right? And yes, some of them can be really helpful, and they're always useful to learn. But just a reminder for your clients that some of these, some of what people say is insane. There's no real backup, right? And while I'm on the subject, someone said something to me recently, and I knew for a fact she couldn't back up what she was saying. She said something about something that was come out, a study, right? That was proven about a certain condition. But there was no actual research and backup. It was not a proper research. And we all know that there can be metaphysical, and there's, if you look at all diseases, there's sometimes people say, well, that disease is caused by trauma. But if you to look at everything in some way is caused by some sort of trauma. So that could be trauma mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually, right? You think about someone has a trauma in the leg and they break the leg, that, right? Even spiritual trauma is a problem. But most people don't understand spiritual trauma, and they're often working with healing modalities, that don't go really into that, or really looking at, they don't see the wider picture, right? So there's all different types of trauma. There can be ancestral trauma. You know, there can be all sorts of other things that are going on that people, you know, don't think about. So we've always got to remember it, but just remember when you're assessing for clients and supporting clients, just always remember what else is going on, and don't just believe everything you're told in summits and events and courses. I mean, I regularly buy a lot of courses just to see, and I'm curious what people are saying and learn, and what some people say on their events just to sell them, or just to say, and what they talk about research. Some things are not always backed up, so just be careful when you're working with certain clients. And because, for example, this person I was talking about, to do with having certain a mum with motor neurons, you know, a therapist was going to be doing treatments on her mum that was really dangerous, but she didn't know that. And the therapist was just going in there hung-ho. But as someone who had a lot of experience, I knew that some of the treatments that this woman was going to offer her mother were actually contraindication, but this woman obviously hadn't went to the right training school. So, you know, there's so much going on. But anyway, go back to, you know, being centered every day. Get into your heart. Right? The best thing we can do is get into our physical body, connect down into Mother Earth, get your polarity right. Make sure your polarity is centered, right? Get into your heart. When you meditate, you know, do some, you know, I always say do some traditional meditation. Traditional meditation in your day helps you with more focus. If you just rely on guided meditations, where somebody else is guiding you as in a visualization, and that type of way, that you get lazy and you get very indisciplined. One of the biggest things that I've solved the last 6 years is all these people who said they were intuitive and they were psychic and they were mediums, and had no discernment of anything that's been going on, because they became lazy. And a lot of them have been hijacked spiritually and energetically, right? So one of the biggest things when you meditate and you have disciplined meditation, and even when it's hard, still do it, right? And just find you can use different ways. I'll give you an example. I remember one time when I had a situation where at one time I'd always kind of balance issues, but this time my balance was really bad. So every time I closed my eyes, I thought I was going to feel as if I was going to drop off a bridge or drop off a mountain, and I felt sick. So when I was closing my eyes to meditate, sitting up, it just was horrible. So what did someone advise me to do? A meditation teacher advised me to use a candle, a point of focus. So sometimes changing what you do. Now, what that done for me was help me, encourage me to look at different meditation approaches and remember that one size fit all for clients is, you know, there's always other reasons to have something else, right? So your meditation, stay centered, stay in your heart, do something for yourself each day that you enjoy. It can be simple, it doesn't have to cost money. Something simple each day to give you a little bit of joy, a little bit of happiness, a little bit of fun. Put on something that's funny, read something funny, speak to someone that makes you laugh. All of these things helps you raise above. Now, we're all going through different rites of passage right now, and it's about us having discernment. It's teaching us, do we have discernment, or do we just believe everything we're told, right? Do we actually use our intuitive, our owning our compass, or are we so programmed? Are we so lazy? Are we so undisciplined that we just give over? Are we so... Because also I know people who are intuitive and kind of sense things were wrong or whatever, but guess what? Their lack of discipline pushed them into self-sabotage constantly, right? And laziness, because what it done was pushed them into what's the carrot. We all have things that tempt us, that we'll go for instead of following our intuition. So some people, it's to do with material gain. So sometimes it's someone's house, their home is more important than everything else. Sometimes people, it's their car. Sometimes it's the things like, you know, it sounds silly, people will exercise. We get some people that they're like, they're not alcoholics, well, I don't know how you would call that, but they're basically will just exercise like adrenaline junkies, right? So they have to have their fix. That's their fix, right? So if they know that they're supposed to do something else and they're guided, but guess what? They'll go and they'll keep doing that, or they'll have their cake or their sweet. Everybody has something, right, that can hijack them and make them do decisions that go against their soul, right? And now more than ever, it's so important that we stay grounded, we stay centered, and we listen to our soul. And it may not feel, and what I mean is, the soul, when the soul tells you something, it's great power and it's great strength, right? It's when the head starts getting in and starts trying to trick you and take you off and go, no, but this could happen and that can happen. You can't do that, or you can't do that, right? That's then you moving out of alignment from your soul, right? Now, if any is, you know, want more help, I'm doing this, so I was supposed to do it today, but I decided to run it next week. I hadn't promoted it much, and my energy wasn't as high as I wanted it and clear, just because I had went this week to the leaving thing on the Wednesday. I usually sometimes go on a Monday, and I just was feeling a bit wiped. So, if any is interested, I will be teaching you some ways to really expand your soul, to really connect into your alignment and increase your power, right? And I'll be sharing some techniques that cost me a lot of money, and you know, from really powerful teachers. So if you want to join that, it's a really low cost considering what you're going to be teaching you at. And as I said, it's next Saturday. It runs from 9:30 to 11, and it'll run for 4 weeks. So if you want to join in with that, just let me know. But just remember, it is really important to stay centered, to stay grounded, to stay in your heart. So just bringing yourself back to your heart. And, you know, remember, you know, if you feel as if you're re-traumatized from something, because sometimes something can happen, you know, in life, and it kind of re-traumatizes, or it can be traumatizing. Remember, we've got the one with I've taught you, and he's come back to the training, the one with the acupressure, where you move down. It is all different, but that can just settle sometimes. It helps center the chakras and move us out. And remember, there's also the NLP little technique can also be quite supportive as well. I hope these are all well. Also, while I'm on, I am considering running accredited stress management in January if I get the right numbers, but I would be doing a bit of the relaxation with it as well, but it does depend on the numbers. What we're noticing right now is, and we're seeing this all about across the board, I know some of you that have got clinics are probably not seeing this as much, but it's mostly people that have online businesses, but there is lots of physical businesses, not even to do with holistic and spiritual, that are feeling this huge shifts in what people are buying, what they're not buying, a whole change of people's buying priorities, a lot of fear, and a lot of, you know, also in the holistic and spiritual community, because people, those that are awake, kind of know, they sense some of what's actually coming. A lot of them are not buying as much as what they normally would buy, right? And a lot of them know also that they're going to be shifting. So one of the things that you might feel as if at the moment you're feeling in a limbo. And what that limbo is for many people is you're going to get moved. What you're doing, what you're going to be doing in the world is going to slightly shift, because you're going to be needed in ways that you never thought you would. I've talked about this for years, and it's funny, you know, I talked about it a few years ago, but actually I can feel it myself. It's funny how that, you know, you talk about something, but almost when sometimes, usually I don't feel like it doesn't feel as if it's not real, but at the moment it's almost like a feeling as some things don't feel real. And maybe it's because if you know things, especially if you're more visionary and you see things that are coming, maybe it's because it's almost you've waited that long for certain things to happen, and then when it does happen it doesn't feel real. But that's the way I feel at the moment. But I know that, for example, I opened up that soul empowered, well, I call this, I was, even me having been dubious about the name should have been a sign, you know. I knew something wasn't quite aligned, I knew, and I was being honest. But what I'd wanted to do was try and put a load of things together for people at low cost, because I knew it was coming, and just to give some way that people could get lots of things for their business, for their own development, and it wasn't a big cost. But the alignment, there were so many things about the name, and I was getting, and then I had get a help from a couple of coaches, a few things, because I had, since this make thing, I had been struggling with my logic with some things. And one of the things that I'd done, which, you know, you learn, we all do it, we make mistakes. I'd done one thing. There was one thing that one coach said to me, and it was, yeah, she was spot on about something that I hadn't not thought about and never saw. But she also kind of pushed me to do something that never really worked for me before. But what I realised was she didn't have the experience that I had. She wasn't a coach for that long, you know, she's quite good. But she didn't have, you know, she's not got decades of experience. And what I realised, she didn't maybe understand the cycles of certain businesses and how certain types of businesses, that wasn't. And I made a decision, listen to heart instead of my own intuition, because I was questioning my own self, and a big lesson. So there's some of that I've ended up taking away, and I'm actually changing that membership to simplify, because I made it overcomplicated for myself. And at the moment we need to make things simple. So I would urge you at the moment, try and simplify as much of your business as possible. Simplify your life, so that you can be centred and grounded, so that you can remain strong and you can remain more in your heart. When things are overcomplicated, when you're pushing yourself a wee bit more, spreading yourself a bit thin, it is hard to stay centred and grounded. It is hard to be fully there for people and have that level of compassion and empathy that the rest of humanity needs right now. Okay, so have a lovely weekend, and just remember, let me know how you are all getting on with, for example, those of you in the Stress Management Act, let me know, because we're obviously in November already. I do have a thing I did for the relaxation students about tweaking, tailoring your business. But I did put some things out before and nobody got back about dates, so I'll maybe just do it as a video and give you access to it. You can let me know your thoughts. But anyway, I know a lot of these videos people are not even seeing at the moment. But anyway, have a wonderful weekend. Take care, and speak to you all soon. Bye.